us today, coming directly from Frankfurt in Germany, we have Rudy Khan, who is the Vice President of Process Mining for UiPath. And you could not be better served than by Rudy, because Rudy is one of the fathers of process mining, and you get to hear directly from him. He was probably one of the first to recognize the potential for process mining. After 10 years in business consulting at IBM and other companies, Rudy founded Process Gold in Frankfurt, Germany in January of 2010. It was the first consulting company specialized in process mining. And then in 2016, Process Gold published its own solution, which is used by EY worldwide as a standard for process audits. At the end of 2019, Process Gold was acquired by UiPath, where Rudy supports as Vice President for Process Mining the over 8,000 customers of UiPath in the integration of process mining and robotics process automation. So ladies and gentlemen, let's learn from one of the creators and founders of this incredible technology of process mining on how it works, how it creates value for all of us. Rudy, we're super excited to have you with us. Thank you for taking the time to share your expertise with our global audience today.
Jose, thank you so much again for having us. It's a real pleasure to be with you guys today. Well, there's not much to say about me in that, because basically Jose said everything. You know, I'm in this business for quite a long time, and in the last, few days, I learned one or two things about process mining, and it's my great pleasure to share with you today. So I can tell you, when I met Will van der Aalst for the very first time in 2009, and if you are into process mining, you have heard this name before, because Will really is the godfather of process mining. He had this crazy idea more than 20 years ago to reconstruct business processes only from data. And at that time, nobody believed it would be possible. I didn't believe it's possible when I met Will for the first time in the Netherlands in 2009. But he showed me, what he can do. And I thought, oh my God, this is so amazing. If this really works, it's going the way or at least I am looking at processes forever. And because before Process Gold, I was a consultant with IBM and some other companies for about 10 years. And, but I will talk about this maybe in a moment. It's not about me. It's really about process mining today, and it's about our customers. So today we will look at process mining from a slightly different angle. Of course, we will cover some of the basics, but we want to show you really like the next evaluation, of process mining, because we believe that process mining needs to be more than just process discovery. And that's the reason why UiPath acquired Process Gold back in 2009. And there was a really funny story I just want to share with you. I was at that time, I was in California, in Silicon Valley, working on our international expansion. And one day morning, it was very early in the morning because they thought I'm in Europe, but I was in California, exactly the different time zone. So they woke me up at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we had a very good chat for about an hour. And then I was asked to reroute my flights to come to New York because we really need to talk. So I did 2 days later. And after a session of 14 hours, I think, and the second bottle of red wine in the steakhouse next door, we actually decided that process mining and RPA would be really a match in heaven, and that we should join forces. It took us 6 months to figure out the details. And then in October 2019, we signed a contract. And 10 days later, I have been on stage, with our management, and we announced the acquisition. And since that, I can tell you it was a roller coaster ride. It's amazing what process mining can do for RPA. And I'm very glad to have Neil with us. So Neil comes from Growmark, one of our customers right now. And Neil is the Director of Enterprise Continuous Improvement. Neil, welcome, and thank you for joining us. And in case you don't know Growmark, I'm sure Neil can tell us a lot about it, but very short, it's a leading agricultural co-op in the US. And Neil, over there, he's the Six Sigma Master Belt, and he's focusing on leveraging technology, to really improve process output. So Neil, welcome. So happy you are our customer. So happy you are with us this morning. And I know you're on vacation, so apologizing to your family. I think for you, it's, what time is it for you? 7 a.m. in the morning?
8 a.m.
8 a.m. Okay, good. So before, after breakfast, let's see. Good. Neil, I would like you to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about the challenges you are facing at Growmark. So what's your current situation?
Sure. So as you said, I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt. been doing process work for about a decade now, and really just focus on getting teams involved in the process improvement, getting the black belts and green belts out of the way with the Lean Six Sigma methodology, and allowing the teams to be able to see their process. And if teams can see their work and see what they're doing, and you know, kind of a mantra of Lean is to make problems visible. It's amazing how much problem solving and improvements teams can do all on their own once they really realize how their processes work and who's doing what, and start to ask that, well, why are you doing that? I thought you were doing that. People really don't know how work flows through an organization. It's eye-opening to start to show them how it does, and then let them, you know, problem solve on their own, as I said. So by profession and passion, I'm a trainer. So I've been coached to have short responses here, but I just want to reiterate what Jose said. Please use the questions and ask us questions. Rudy broke the IQ chart a couple of years ago, so he's great to provide responses as well. But we'd love to go deeper on anything that you know, the panel would like to hear more about. So in terms of challenges at Growmark, so we're a 100-year-old organization almost, and being from agricultural, it's very conservative. It's, you know, we work a lot with farmers and people out in the field, so it's becoming more and more technology driven every day, as all industries are. But historically, it was very manual. Not a lot of technology and digital footprint there in this industry. But just recently, we recognized the need to really jump into the 21st century. And at Growmark, we've implemented a new ERP system. We're now an SAP shop all the way through and through our enterprise. And part of the promise of that was to provide a rich treasure trove of data, which would provide us robust analytics and understanding. Well, like most organizations that jump into an ERP, you're faced with a chicken and the egg situation of you don't know the technology fully that you're jumping into, and you don't know how your processes today are going to fit into that. So you take what you have and you try to fit it in as best you can. And what happens is there's opportunity in the new technology that you didn't know about, and so you have old processes and new technology. So we're at that stage now where we've got the new technology implemented. We're running on SAP, everything's turned on and working, but it's not optimized. We really don't know how it's working and who's doing what, and we're still doing the processes we did pre-SAP, kind of, you know, round hole, square peg type situation. So process mining was really, really powerful for us to be able to just plug in to that data and be able to visualize our process in a very, very quick manner. A lot of our processes are siloed. I know a lot of organizations face that, where I do my job and you do your job and never do the intertwine. We have siloed IT requests. So every different area is hitting IT with their own requests for updates, changes, bug fixes, whatever it may be. But nobody has that end-to-end process perspective to say which one of those should be prioritized in terms of throughput for the whole process, rather than just improving your process, whether you're the constraint or not. Nobody is really looking at it through that lens. So that's what we're trying to do with process mining, is to make those processes visible, put those problem solvings in the hands of the teams, and then let them determine, well, you know, if you improve your step, that helps me with my step. So why don't your IT request go before mine? It helps with that battle of prioritization that every organization fights with, of who gets the limited IT hours within the organization. So a lot of our systems and our processes are what I'll call tribal knowledge. I give our employees a ton of kudos for getting things done. Once you peel back the onion and actually see how a process works and how convoluted and complex it is, it's really amazing that anything gets done at all. But it's through sheer willpower of our employees and the knowledge that they have. You know, often when I get into a team, I joke with them that more often than not, I uncover that a team doesn't really have a process as we would think of it. I say they have a series of exceptions that over time they've learned how to manage expertly. You just know how to deal with that, but it all comes from experience. You know, in terms of training and new employees coming on, it's very hard to knowledge transfer that information when employees change jobs. It's great for the employee, but it wreaks havoc on the process. So we're trying to shift from managing people to what I call managing processes, and listening to the process and having that be a main driver of making sure that our value gets to our customers in the most efficient manner, and kind of getting the people out of the way. So that's a little bit of background about our organization and where we're at and some of the challenges, and why I'm really excited that we have process mining in-house, and we're starting to leverage it and starting to see our processes come to life, and it's really, really exciting.
Yeah, that's really great, and I'm sure it resonates with a lot of people. Certainly, it does resonate with me, because I have been in the situation as a consultant very often, many times. But I think you are primarily not a process mining customer of UiPath. You're an RPA customer, right? So you're also using the RPA technology.
That's correct, and the way that came about was kind of interesting. Because I felt so passionately about wanting to let employees see their process and understand how things were working, I fell in love with process mining through UiPath. We had a separate team in our innovation area that was looking at RPA, and we had decided during our review that we were comfortable with going in separate directions. So they wanted RPA, I wanted process mining, and we weren't committed to having a single vendor that we both had to agree to. Now, after reviewing both areas through our in-depth study and due diligence, we did both land on UiPath, which was exciting because that does provide some synergies. But it really has best in breed products for both of those spaces. But it wasn't just the in-house opportunity with UiPath that we were looking at. Both of them were selected independently of the other, and we both landed with UiPath. So that's pretty exciting. For me, process mining and making those processes come to life, historically in previous roles, you have to do workshops to map those processes and understand the basic flow. You generally have to do desk side observations, because employees don't always know what it is they do. They know they get it done, but when you ask them and you sit with them, they're like, oh yeah, I do that. I forgot about that. So you usually have to do some desk side observations. And then there's team discussions to bring it all together, make sure everybody's in agreement and has commitment that that is the process and that's how it works. And then once you have the process down, you switch to data exploration, finding out what systems each step of the process lives in, where that data is, where the tables are, how they're structured. Then you have to go to ETL, and it's just this long, drawn-out process that can take 6 to 12 months. ETL, and then once you have the data wrangled and cleaned up and available, then you have to figure out the visualizations, put those visualizations back in front of the team, have them do a review and give you feedback. There's back and forth to make sure that the data is correct and accurate and representative of their day and means something to them. And then you have adoption of that. Then you can finally get to insights and then improvements. So by the time you start with a team, you have many steps to go through to make sure that you actually get good, robust data that's meaningful to the team, that they have action that they can take that will actually move the needle on that. Most metrics that you see throughout an organization are lagging financial metrics that when I come in and do my job and I sit at my desk for 8 days, I can't move the needle on that. I don't work in sales. I don't work directly with customers. So finding a metric and finding data that actually is reflective of the keys that I hit when I come into work every day can be really challenging. But once you find that, the engagement of the teams and the interest of the teams goes through the roof.
That's fantastic, Neil. And you almost spoiled my complete presentation, because I actually wanted to present a few slides.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, no problem. You already told about how great process mining is and what it does. But since this is a presentation or this is a conference about process mining, I thought maybe it might be useful for our audience to give a short introduction of process mining, what it actually is, before we move on with our discussion, and then also show a real demo. So first, maybe some of the basics, and if you guys already know what process mining is, so lean back, there will be no news for you, but for everybody else, this might be actually quite helpful. So, well, talking about process mining, again, Rudolf Kuhn, Rudy Khan, I'm the VP and Head Ambassador for Process Mining at UiPath. And as Neil already said, we are not basically, we are not really a process mining company. So we are an RPA company. So what is RPA? You know, we have these little nice bots. You have also seen them sitting beside of me or behind of me on my bed. But we have these little bots, and they, you know, they basically emulate what people do. So they are reading screens, they are deciding what to do, they are interacting with applications, and they take away the repetitive work away from people. So people feel better. People can really focus on their work, on creativity, on solving problems, and not, you know, doing the day-to-day job, copying stuff from left to right. And I can tell you, you know, and for that we need more transparency about the real processes. And I can tell you that as a little boy, I was actually not very excited about bots. You know, I was more into superheroes. And I always wanted to become a superhero. I always wanted to become Superman because this guy, you know, he was very strong, he could fly, and he had one very special superpower. You know, I'm sure everybody who's involved in process discovery could need, and that's the superpower of X-ray vision. Of course, you know, later I realized if I want to make some money, I need to pick a real job. So I joined UiPath after university, and I became another kind of superhero. I actually started my career as a business consultant. And as Neil said, if you ask people about processes, very often they don't even know what the processes are. So a typical response to, you know, to a detailed question about process is really, honestly, I don't know how often we do it. I don't know how often, you know, how long it takes. I don't know what the value stream is. No idea. We have a process documentation, of course, but this documentation is outdated the moment you print it. And, you know, if you're a consultant and you get a response like this, Neil, what do? We do workshops. And you have probably seen pictures like this before in your life. You know, this is where you sit together with some people in the room. Everybody's telling you a different story. And at the end of the day, you have more processes than you have participants in your workshop. But, you know, that was my life for a couple of years. And only then in 2009, I traveled to the beautiful country of the Netherlands. And I met this gentleman, I already mentioned him, you know, Wil van der Aalst. So he really is the guy who invented this technology. So what is process mining? For me, it's still a little bit of magic. Of course, it's not magic, it's a lot of math, but it's an automatical way to reconstruct and analyze business processes from data only. And the way it works is quite straightforward, you know, because every transaction in an IT system is leaving some digital footprints behind. And systems are storing this information in database systems and log files. Now imagine if you collect all this information from all the different places and you create this one file we call event log with only 3 attributes. You can already visualize the process. So the first, what we need is an activity like register, define permit, or confirmation in this example. Now, if we take one single case, and a case, you know, can be an invoice, can be a purchase order, can be a customer request. It depends on the process. But if you sort the activities by the time, you already get a process. And now imagine you do this for not only for one invoice, for example, but you do it for all the data, all the invoices in your system. Then very quickly you will realize there is not such a thing as a process. But there are many different ways how this process can be run. And believe me, as a consultant, not everything I have seen in my past was really efficient or free of risk. And we need this transparency before we can decide, you know, what to do. If we see a broken process, we need to fix it. If we see a process that is not efficient and it can be automated, we want to automate it. So, and we need this transparency because of all the, you know, assumptions and some facts about processes. So a typical assumption is that people believe that a process is straightforward. Yes, of course, you know, if we move the slider in one of our applications to something like 20%, you will see that what we sometimes call the happy path. But if you move the slider to something like 40%, you will actually get a different picture. You know, you get the same picture like from a good workshop, because people know that not everything is straightforward. There are some loops, there are some anomalies, and so on. But Neil, what do we get if we move the slider to 100%? You know, we get what I always call a big bowl of spaghetti. Of course, the bowl of spaghetti in our application looks different. It's maybe more like this, but it's exactly the same process like on the left. But this time we have visualized every single variation of the same process in the same picture. And guys, you see the difference. You know, this is what maybe what the CEO thinks the process is. This is what people know what the processes are, and that's the reality. And this level of transparency, for me, it's always, you know, like an X-ray. Like an X-ray of processes. So if it hurts, or if you want to avoid pain in the future, we take the data, we make this picture, not only one, a lot of them, and we get full transparency. Of course, always limited to the digital footprints. If there are no data, well, we are lost. But if we have data, we provide full transparency, and compared to my previous work, as a consultant, our customers actually save a lot of time, they save a lot of money, but, and maybe that's the best thing about it, we can repeat this over and over again. So we use process mining before we automate processes to understand, what should be automated, what can be automated, and what needs to be fixed. And after we automate the processes, we use the same technology again for the monitoring of the impact of automation. And we have an entire platform for this. So that's the UiPath platform for automation. And as you can see, process mining is only one of the tools in the discovery box over here. So our core business really is building, managing, and running the different type of bots we have. But we always start with transparency, because only if you understand what the problem is, you can solve it. Otherwise, you can't. Well, so we have this entire platform, and I will later show you how this really works. Afterwards, I will show you our superpower of process mining. But before we go there, Neil, I have a question for you. Out of all the process mining vendors, and there will be some more in the next few days, why did you select Process Gold? Oh, not Process Gold. Process Gold was before, but now UiPath Process Mining. Still used to the name. Sorry.
Well, we really like the output. So as you just showed in the slides, we did a proof of value with UiPath, and we had exactly what you just showed. We had the bowl of spaghetti. So for our proof of value experiment that we did our P2P process, and it was a simple 5-step process in the minds of the people that spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week doing that job. When we actually turned on the X-ray machine and saw the invoices flow through there over a 6-month period, through those basic 5 steps, there was 474 variations of what work flowed through those 5 different steps.
Well, I can tell you I have seen worse, but that's a good number.
Well, for us, it was jaw-dropping. And so we really like the visualization. We like being able to see individual work items move through. For us, we have different products that we offer to our member companies. So we do energy and agronomy, so seed and other nutrients that you'd put in the soil for our farmers. And we could see it by product division. We could see it by individual product. We could see those invoices color-coded move through the system. Also, Rudy, I'm not sure if you have a Lean Six Sigma background or any formal training or you can really tell in the system in terms of a lean practitioner and the things that we want to know about a process to be able to do lean analysis and Six Sigma improvements. It checked all the boxes. It gave us all the data, the lead times, the cycle times, everything that we would need to be able to plug that data into our formulas and be able to see where we're at today and then plan for some improvements. We also liked that it was non-intrusive. So some of the other products we looked at were installed on end user monitors and did more of a recording of processes to create the process mining and the process maps. Still provided some of the data and things like that, but we liked that the UiPath solution used the audit tables. It used the historical data that was already there, present, we own it, and we could plug in, for the proof of value, like I said, we did 6 months, but we could go back even further than that to see how our processes have been running rather than starting recording on day one and not really getting to those insights, again, for those 6 months. So that speed to delivery was really important to us, and we really liked that. That's why we chose them, I would say.
Yeah, what do you think? Should we show the folks how it actually works, so they maybe have a similar experience?
Yeah, I think the visual and the output that you guys created is sleek. I like it.
Yeah, really seeing is believing. So guys, again, let me share my screen and just show you, how process mining at UiPath looks like. And I have to say that's the current version. So we're already working on a new version, which will be released later this year. This will be, in a totally different corporate design or user interface, matching the rest of the UiPath platform. Maybe at the end I can give you a sneak preview, but this is what we have today, and I will spend the next roughly 10 minutes just to show you quickly how we use process mining first to understand the process, how to discover RPA potential, how to monitor automation afterwards, after we automate the process, and we'll skip this part for today. And then we look again at, how we can maybe react with RPA. So this is much more than just, process discovery. But of course, here I have selected some data from one of our customers over here in Germany. So we have the 6,103 cases, and a case in our example, you can see it from the activities like receive invoice, process invoice, and pay invoice. Every single case is an invoice. And this company in the first quarter of 2019, they received 6,103 invoices. And surprisingly, they figured out 165 different ways how this process can be run. So when I want to see what the process is, all I need to do is to click on process, and the system will now automatically reconstruct, well, a process. But the process you see, we have these boxes, we call them activities, we have the connections, we call them edges. And because both of my sliders down here are set to 0% only, we see only the most common way, variant number 1. So if I click on variant number 1, because everything is interactive, and if I would approve my selection, we would start to analyze only the 2,313 invoices. But that's not what I want to do. I would like to see what else happened. So when I move the slider to the right, the system will actually indicate that most of the time we go straight forward here from process invoice to the final check of invoice. But sometimes, to be more precise, for 1,796 invoices, we first request data, we check the contract, and only then we can do the final check of invoice. The numbers representing the number of invoices, of course, we can switch to other metrics like, for example, value stream. So when I click on average invoice amount, I will discover that this, this different process probably is because of a bigger invoice. In our company, if we have a big invoice, there's a different approval process. And I can do the same for edges. So I might discover that apparently the final check of invoice is not final all the time because we see some loops. And if I add some more exceptions, the system will indicate that we may even have some compliance issues because cases are bypassing the approval step. And when we talk about automation, this is probably nothing you really want to automate. You don't want to automate a deviation or anomaly like this. So here we can click on it, or we could click on it, we could go into the details, we could see who the suppliers are and all of that. But guys, this is just standard process mining. You will see this, probably from the other vendors over the next few days. So let's skip this and let me show you some more advanced stuff. So when I add more and more activities, I will discover, maybe a short, fast track in my process. And if I add something like 100%, I can see all my activities. And if I add all my edges, wow, I end up with the little ball of spaghetti, the 165 different variants of the same process in the same picture. Ooh, yeah, and guys, I'm pretty new to the RPA family, but my colleagues told me that automating this mess would be a real challenge. So many variations, loops, compliance issues, whatever. You don't want to automate everything here. So we need to focus on the right stuff. And how do we do that? Well, we have 165 different variants, but let's say we focus only on the 5 most common variations of our process. Well, Neil, I would say this picture looks so much better, doesn't it?
Yes.
So, yeah, right. So here, I'm pretty sure we can do something about automation here, but where to start? Well, we can focus on the loops, but we can also look at the bottlenecks. So when I switch to my average throughput time based on the dark color coding, I will very quickly realize that I have a significant bottleneck here between receive invoice and process invoice of 9 days. The system automatically discovered this as a bottleneck because it's so much longer than the 15 hours or the 1.4 seconds I see over here. So we should definitely do something about, or consider to automate this part of the process. And now we would start some other tools we have, like task mining, where we look into the front-end applications and maybe some task capture. So we have some more tools in our box, but today we focus only on process mining. So I will skip the detail work, I will skip the automation part, and I want to show you how we can use process mining really to monitor the impact of maybe automation or maybe of every change you do. So when I click on another dashboard called automation, we actually get the same process. Well, the pattern looks the same. The color is different because the color is representing the different rates or different automation rate. So we can see that already in the first quarter, this part of the process receive invoice was fully automated. It was a scan bot the company already had. There was a payment interface for pay invoice, so pay invoice is fully automated. But really the big bottleneck over here, the 9 days between receive invoice and process invoice are fully manual, 0% automation rate. And we can see the cost. We also had access to cost information from this company, and we can see that every processing of of an invoice in the most frequent variant, number one, was pretty expensive, $98. Jesus, it was probably more expensive than some of the invoices. But again, there was a clear expectation from the customer that this will heavily improve once we start to automate the process. And again, guys, that's why we decided that RPA and process mining, the combination makes so much work or so much sense. Because once you understand that you have a problem, like a broken process, a broken arm, an X-ray is not good enough. You need the treatment, and the treatment in this case, was automation. So we started to implement UiPath in the second quarter, and in the second quarter, you see the same process, but this time process invoice has a slightly different color, because by the end of the second quarter, already 24% of all our processes were processed automatically. You see the throughput time dropped a little bit from 9 days to 7 days, and also the cost dropped by roughly 20% from 98 to 81. But in the third quarter, this gets really exciting, because now, here we can see process invoice is now fully automated by 100%, and the throughput time now really dropped from 9 days to 7 days, and now to 34 minutes only. And look at the cost. We started off with 98, 81, and now less than $30. So that's fantastic. But again, this is standard process mining, or no, this is not standard process mining, it's a little bit more, but that's the power of automation of RPA. And finally, with process mining, we have the capability not only to discover the process, to analyze it, to see deviations, to see anomalies, compliance issues, but we can also discover RPA potential. And after we have automated the process, we used our own logs from our bots actually to get this information and to show how successful automation really is. Therapy and discovery, or diagnosis and therapy. That's what it is. Yeah. And there's one more thing. Neil, any remarks?
It's so powerful here. I hope everybody is understanding this level of insight and how powerful it can be. But as Rudy said, there's different types of therapy. And so that automation of that step is really powerful. And you can see 9 days to 34 minutes is huge. And we all know RPA is capable of that. But one thing that we noticed is, our happy path was very small. I think our happy path, our highest number of cases that went through one variant was less than 15%. Because we just have so much variation in our process. And we all know variation is bad in and of itself. So some of it is, if you're going to automate a step in a process, how do you get more work to go through that step and not go around and have so many different variants and different ways of doing it? So we could tackle some of those edges as well as the activity for automation and say, not only do we want to automate this step, but there's only 1,000 cases that go through that step. We want to get 6,000 cases going through that step. So that the automation that we do put in place becomes even more powerful, because it doesn't just improve the cases that go through that step, but we can get more cases in there. So there's kind of two ways to attack it, and different therapies and different opportunities to leverage improvements in different areas.
Right, and to your point, I fully agree. For me as a consultant, there are always multiple ways how to tackle a problem. It's always, some people call it PPT, so people, process, and technology. And clearly, RPA is the technology part. You just talked about the process part, but there's also the people part, where once you understand who does what, you can ask why they do it. You can talk to the people. You can think about training for them, really to help them to do a better job, right? Well, yeah, that's the third angle.
The people part and the culture part is often the most difficult, getting people to change behavior. But when I showed that spaghetti bowl to the team that did it, their jaws dropped just like the CEO room did. that really, that's what we do. That's what we have to deal with. And they were more validated, that they knew that they worked really hard. But to see it and visualize it, that really gets them on board with something's got to change. We need to start doing something different. And they become far more change malleable for all your change management efforts when you're trying to work on process and technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Neil, I would like to show the third part, the reacting part, because this is at least as powerful. We have discovered the issues, we have fixed the issues with automation, but unfortunately, not everything will be right from the start. Neither the bots nor the people are perfect, so mistakes will happen. And I want to show you how we're actually tackling the challenges with our platform as well. For that, I have a bookmark here, really for the last day of my data. And so this is the 30th of October, 2019. And we can see on this day, we had only 14 invoices, but one invoice, for whatever reason, managed to bypass the mandatory approval step. So yeah, we need to fix this problem. How can we do that? Of course, when I click on the path, I get the filter, I approve my selection. I have only one case. I go into the details to better understand what happened. And when I click, on the case, I can see, well, this process was actually fully automated, scan bot, processing bot, control bot, but the approval step is missing. It's only a small invoice, $450, and Rebecca Love, she was responsible. And normally we would detect this deviation or this anomaly every time we process the data. So most of our customers does it once a night. But guys, we have only a few minutes left, so we cannot wait until tomorrow. So for that, I added another dashboard here. It's called Action Center. And this button normally doesn't exist. But if I push this button, this would normally happen automatically in the backend every time we're processing the data. But here now, this case was sent over to another part of our UiPath platform, actually the Action Center. And the Action Center, if I switch over, is, it's like my to-do list. So you see, I have no unassigned cases, but when I refresh my page, and hopefully it works, that's one of the stuffs you should never do online. Or maybe I need to go to pending. No, it must be unassigned. Yeah, here it is. So we can see, that a few seconds ago, this one case was actually created. Invoice approval is missing. So we need to do something about it. And while still loading the details, I can now see, it's my case from Process Mining Rebecca Love, the $450. And if you guys, for example, have a document management system, we can add a button where you click on, okay, show me this invoice. And this is just a dummy, only for demo purposes. But we see the invoice, we say, okay, that's good. We should definitely pay that one. We go back, and now after I assign this case to myself, I can, for example, click on, come on, give me the button. System seems to be very busy, okay. I can click on open in SAP. Then what would happen? SAP would come up and I would see this invoice after being logged in, and I could approve it manually. But guys, this is exactly the 5 minutes of work we want to save for everybody, for thousands of people, this and other tasks. So instead of clicking and doing this manually, I can actually click on approve, and then one of my bots will take over, will on my behalf go into SAP, will approve this invoice, and all I need to do is just to confirm that this case is completed, and I come back to a beautiful empty to-do list again. So guys, that was perfectly on time because we want to spend some time on Q&A. So what I tried to show you was really, how we use process mining today, first to discover the real processes, to understand inefficiency, to understand risk, to discover RPA potential. And then after we have automated the process, to monitor the impact of RPA, to have reliable numbers on how well we are doing. And if we are not doing perfectly well, how to use this technology again to react on any type of issues and fixing the problem that, the final check of invoice or the approval step was missing. With that, thank you so much. And yeah, let's move on.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you very much. Let me rejoin you on screen. What a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and knowledge. There's been a large number of questions coming in, so I would assume from that the audience has enjoyed this presentation as much as I have. And Grace Wang, who is your colleague, Rudy, behind you, has been ably answering as many as possible behind the scenes.
Thanks, Grace.
So I'd like to praise Grace for her efforts as part of this process, and really sort of move as swiftly as possible into the first couple, if I may, and really set the tone for what we're doing as part of this process. So I would ask that we start with a question from Jean-Michel. Cateau, and please forgive my French, Jean-Michel, not as good as it should be. Jean-Michel says, I work within the contact center environment involved in process mapping projects. Would it be feasible to draw up an SOP for every process that is mapped out so that the SOP document could be used for training purposes? And as a follow-up to that, are there any other alternatives apart from creating an SOP document? So I don't know who wants to take that first, guys.
Rudy,
Hey, would you like? No, okay, no, I can do that, of course. You know, mapping out every single process in SAP is, oh wow, that's a big challenge. That's probably a task that will take you a couple of, well, maybe not weeks, maybe even months or years. You know, and not every process is really, I would say, or not every SAP process is suitable for process mining, because you need a case, you need some activities, there needs to be some variation in the process, because only then it makes sense to look into it and to, you know, what I learned in the last 10 years, the biggest challenge really is to get the right data and to get the data right. So today we know process, you know, we know SAP pretty well, but SAP actually is a system with up to 170 or 200,000 database tables. You know, this is insane. Probably only Germans can come up with a system like this. But
Rudy, my apologies. Yeah. Rather than SAP, it was SOP.
Oh, SOP.
SOP,
well,
not SAP. That was entirely my pronunciation.
Okay, no problem. So don't forget everything I said. SAP is great. I love it. It's the greatest system. No, just kidding. No, you know, basically, so Jean-Michel, sorry, I don't know SOP. So if you like, you know, reach out to me, rudy@uipath.com, or you find me on LinkedIn, and then we can have a discussion about this. But basically, every system that leaves digital footprints behind is suitable for process mining. And if not for process mining, we can use our task mining capability. That's a different topic. You know, that's something where we create our own event log from observing the screens, a little bit what Neil was also talking about in the beginning. So we have now process mining and task mining, really for the comprehensive end-to-end view on processes. But definitely, you know, contact center along our customers at UiPath, we have probably hundreds of contact centers, because this is really where also automation makes a lot of sense. So I'm sure we have some use cases. So please don't hesitate, reach out to me, and then have a detailed discussion. But basically, yes, we can.
Fantastic.
And Rudy, what you just said is exactly how we're coming at it. So process mining is great for visualizing your process and understanding the flow and getting those right metrics so that you can look at those metrics every day. You know, we use the monitoring tools that you just demoed to do like daily huddles and things like that, so we can see if our process is improving and be talking about our process on a regular basis. But the other tool that you just mentioned, task capture, that is the kind of the screen recorder, and it records each step that you go through, and it puts the output into a Word doc as one of the options. But the task capture tool through UiPath is what we use to create our SOP documentation.
Once we have task capture, and now with our latest version 21.4 coming out next month, we will also have task mining. So that's, you know, like the next version of task capture, where you do not record only one execution, like the perfect process, but you can, you know, you can start this recording for like a week, observing what people are doing, and then with some very fancy AI algorithms, we recreate the work in the front end from it. So it's really sophisticated, and it's really the next level of understanding. So it's a combination of backend process mining that really gives you the full insights in your process.
And those are nice because they take actual screenshots of the screens that you're on. Yep. So to train a new user, to hand it to somebody, they would be able to see the layout and where they're going, and it outlines the navigation. It's really nice.
Fantastic. And Neil, the next question specifically for you, and Brad Thompson asks, can you talk about the value you generated from your proof of value?
Yeah, so the proof of value, well, like I said, we used the P2P process, and what we did was we started attacking those edges. So we brought in the tool, we started looking at it and talking to the team and understanding why so many of those different variants happened. It was a great opportunity to institute some training programs, to introduce some lean concepts and some, you know, explain to them why variation is bad in and of itself, just so that they knew that not only is there a lot of variance, and they understand now why their day is so chaotic and hectic, but understanding why just doing it differently from person to person is a big deal, and doing it differently from day to day is a big deal. And just knowing that if I'm more consistent in the way that I do my work, processes can run more smooth, added a big value. And over just a short amount of time, we were able to eliminate over 100 of those variants just by bringing awareness to it. We didn't actually do any massive implementations or projects or anything like that, but just people knowing that I need to go steps A, B, C, because steps A, B, and C is the right sequence of work. And even though I didn't eat my breakfast this morning and I want to do BCA just because I feel like it, I need to do A, B, C. And just same sequence of steps, getting two neighbors to work together. So a lot of areas, you know, Billy gets hired and Susie trains Billy, and then 6 years later, Billy trains Tommy. The processes change over time because you're getting trained by different people and getting trained the way they do it. That wreaks havoc, and that causes a lot of those variants too. So we started to tackle some of those systemic issues with those SAPs and with standard procedures to get standard work in place, and then we could see the output by rerunning process mining, the improvements.
Fantastic, thank you for that. Guys, I will say in advance, there's no way we're going to have an opportunity to answer all the queries. I know that Rudy and his team will follow up with you afterwards, so please do expect that contact. However, there's a very interesting one next, which I'll go to. And Mohsen, thank you very much for answering this one. And I think I'll direct this one to you, Rudy, because you probably would know the answer to this. Is there a way to add manually processes that are not extracted from the ERP data?
Well, we have to distinguish between manually executed processes, you know, like signing off invoices on paper, you know, approving invoices with a signature on paper. Then there's almost no way to do it in a good way, because, you know, no matter, of course, we can generate these events artificially, just adding the data, but you never know when it was really done. There's no timestamp with your signature. If you are lucky, you will have a date, but you have never the time, and so on and so on. You will never know how long it took. So honestly, there's not a good way to add manual tasks like, you know, signing off paper. If we talk about manual tasks, like tasks done with a different system, or even not in a, you know, maybe something like email, then again, we have this task mining capability where we try to create event logs from applications that do not create any digit footprints, like Excel, like email, so to better understand the combination of transactional backend systems and front-end systems, really to get the full transparency. So that's a different topic. So for paper, no, not really. For the other stuff, yes, it's a bit harder, but it's possible.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that provides you with your answer. I've got two final questions here. One is not so much as a question, but a request for a sneak peek of the revised process mining UI from Daniel Viner, who's obviously looking forward to seeing this. And we will, with Rudy's permission, end on that. But just before we go there, Rudy, Gökhan Guriasa has a question. How can value stream mapping be leveraged with process mining? Is it in parallel or vice versa? Maybe Neil or Rudy. Neil, do you use that in terms of what you're currently using it for? What's the best way?
So we start with process mining. We start with the data and understand where they're at. And then we validate the value stream map using the data that was produced. So there is still some back and forth with the business unit to generate that value stream map, but it's generally easier to pull the data out first.
Fantastic. And now, Rudy, if we could get that sneak peek, I think people would be very pleased.
Yes, of course. You know, so what you see is the current UI. It's the old process code user interface, of course, and we are working on this really seamless integration of process mining in the entire UiPath platform, including AI Center, including task mining, including Action Center, everything. So when I go over here, so what you see is really the very first alpha version. It will be released later this year, but here, you know, you see we have the typical UiPath taskbar over here with data services, task mining, the studio where you can create your bots, AI Center, And here we have the processes. I can work with the filters, removing or adding some new case owners. And I didn't refresh this page for a long time, so yeah, okay, it's a bit slow. But this really is the new user interface. You see, of course, is a very first version, but you see part of it is already here, and our developers are working on much more stuff. But most important really is the integration with the rest of the platform. So if you want to use AI functionality, it's only one click away. If you want to move this take this process and automate it, the studio is just one step away. If you want to go, let's say, receive invoice and you want to better understand what people are doing, the task mining is just one click away. So guys, this is going to change, the way you are looking at processes and automation dramatically. And again, stay tuned. It will be here later this year. Thank you so much.
Rudy, Neil, thank you so much. An absolute tour de force and a great opening session for the event. Thank you very much, Neil, for interrupting your vacation. Please apologize profusely to your family for us. Rudy, thanks for coming in and leading again, much appreciated. And Grace, thank you very much for your hard efforts behind the scene. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. Look forward to catching up with you in due course. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back up at the top of the hour with the second session of the event. And I am very pleased to be able to say that as the next part of the process has led on from a fabulous opening session, we will lead directly from that into Rameshwar Balangu from Avaya. He is the head of digital automation and enterprise architecture, and he's going to be looking at process mining and the next generation enterprise. That is a session you do not want to miss. Look forward to seeing you at the top of the hour, and we will take a quick break now. Look forward to seeing you back. Take care. Bye-bye.